Miami Dolphins, perfect free agency plan. That is what we're talking about on today's show. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. This is not me predicting what Chris Grier will ultimately do for the Miami Dolphins. This is what I would do if I was GM. So when we look back in 2 weeks and see where everybody went free agency, I'll be able to say, well, I wanted to do this. They did this. Good little experiment and exercise on today's show. But in case you were unaware, which it would be hard for you to be unaware of this, but free agency does begin on March 10th. It will be the tampering period, and then things become official on March 12th. But you're able to agree to contracts on March 10th. And before we get to March 10th, these are 3 things that I would do, and I would do some potential contract restructures. Bradley Chubb, Zach Sealer, and Austin Jackson. Because as things currently stand right now, as of filming this on Tuesday's live show, the Dolphins have $14 million in cap space. Well, couldn't have changed from that filming to now, but if you restructure Chubb, Sealer, and Austin Jackson to the absolute max, that frees up $24 million in cap space, which would get Miami up to $38 million going into free agency. Now, $38 million is not a ton. You're not going to write home and get excited about that. But it is enough to re-sign some key players. It's also enough to sign some exterior free agents at positions of need. And before we get into what I will start doing with that $38 million in cap space, make sure you are subscribed. Up-to-date content on the Miami Dolphins for NFL free agency. The goal is to get to 68,000 subscribers before free agency begins on March 10th. So we have 3-4 days to get 300 more subscribers. Can we do it? I think we can. Hit that sub button. Let's get to 68K. All right, the first thing I'm doing, and this is something that may have already happened. So if it did, check the comments and I'll let you know. Or just make sure you're subscribed because we'll probably make a video about it. But I would give the right of first refusal tender on Kader Kohou. He's a restricted free agent. Miami has need at nickel corner, needs a boundary corner as well, opposite of Jalen Ramsey. And for $3.2 million in cap space for 2025, it would make a lot of sense for the Dolphins to do that. If someone else signed Kohou to a long-term deal, Miami would be able to match that. And if no one signs him, well, then Miami just can send him back on a 1-year, $3.2 million deal. He was one of the best nickel corners in terms of covering last season. Yes, there's the concern and struggles of tackling, but Kohou, good cover guy, played well in the first year under Anthony Weaver. I'd be excited to see what he does in year 2. I would put the right of first refusal tender on Kader Kohou for $3.2 million. I would also then re-sign Calais, Campbell, and Tyrel Dodson. So I'm bringing back Kohou, Campbell, and Dodson to this defense. Kohou's a cheap contract. Then Calais Campbell could be had for a 1-year, $5 million kind of deal after his strong 2024 season. And then Tyrel Dodson, I'd sign him to a 2-year deal. About 2 years, $9.3 million, 4.7, 4.6 over the 2 seasons you have him at. I thought he played well in that half year for Miami. He comes in as your off-ball linebacker 2 to Jordan Brooks. This upcoming season, you draft a linebacker in the draft to be that 3rd guy. Campbell's on the defensive line opposite Zach Sealer. Those 3 would be excellent re-sign options to me for the Dolphins. And if you do that, on short-term deals, you would still be left with about $24.1 million in cap space heading into NFL free agency, which then you can really start to look at signing some exterior free agents if you're asking me. But let me know, before we get into my exterior free agent targets for the perfect free agency plan, who is your top free agent target for the Miami Dolphins? Be Chris Grier. Let me know. Who do you want? It's probably going to be a safety or an offensive lineman, but let me know who is your top free agent target for the Miami Dolphins. All right, the first player I'm going to sign, this should be no surprise, but I'm signing a safety, Julian Blackmon from the Indianapolis Colts. I have been a big fan of him over the past couple of months as I've looked more into the free agent list here. He was excellent in coverage this past season for the Indianapolis Colts. He's young. He had a lower missed tackle rate than Javon Holland, still a little bit high at 15.2%, but Javon Holland was at 18% this past season. So you're getting better, at least in that department, but you're also getting a free safety that can absolutely roam around. Only allowed 65.2 completion percentage, a QB rating when targeted of 92. He was one of the highest graded safeties in terms of pure cover guys. I like Blackmon. Then you just address the other strong safety position as well, potentially in the draft, with Patrick Morris as your third safety. I have been pounding the table for a while about Julian Blackmon. I'm going to continue to do so as someone who could be a replacement option of Javon Holland, and the contract I'd be offering him is a 3-year, $23.9 million deal. It ascends in value over the next 3 seasons. Cap hit is a little bit lower for 2025, probably close to that $6 million range, and then you have $8.5 and $9 million cap hit for the next couple of seasons, but I would like to get him on a multi-year contract to be someone for the Dolphins that shores up that secondary at that safety room. I really like Blackmon. Please, 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 Chris Grier, sign him. I think he's my top guy, as I just asked you that. All right, we're going to get over to some other perfect free agent targets for Miami, in my opinion, but we are sponsored by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy sports app and platform that I play every single day. Get started today on PrizePicks. All you do is pick more or less on 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. PrizePicks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. You can play season-long, daily, across different sports leagues, basketball, hockey, golf, football. Season-long football entry already right here. Less than 4,224 yards for Jared Goff, less than Travis Kelce, 774 receiving yards, and then less than Jaden Daniels, 824 rushing yards is one example of how you can play. Join in the millions of others on PrizePicks right now. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, we're going to go to the offensive line next, and we're actually stealing another player from the Indianapolis Colts in my perfect free agency plan. We're taking Will Fries. I am obsessed with Fries. He did not play a lot in 2024 because he fractured his tibia early on in the season, but he was on pace to be one of the top offensive linemen this past season. Put up gaudy PFF numbers in those first 5 games he played. Was also really good in the zone run blocking scheme. That is obviously the scheme that Miami runs. Fries is an athlete. I don't think that leg injury is going to hold him back as he makes a full recovery. Plus, it happened early in the 2024 season, which would make him easy and ready to be back, ready to go for 2025. Fries would be a perfect fit at right guard or left guard for the Dolphins, ranked second in his limited time, according to PFF, and the zone run blocking scheme grade. And I don't think he's going to be that expensive. ESPN put out a projection for his tier of guards in free agency, and it ranged anywhere between $5 and $8 million. I think it's going to be closer to that $8 million range. I could see him getting close to $10 to $11, $12 million if a team really falls in love with him. I think 2 years, $16.7 million is a fair deal for Fries. There's a little bit of a gamble coming in with Fries due to that injury and him not really being a household starting name, but I would be comfortable having him at least come in as the starter to camp, recovering from injury on a multi-year contract. I like Will Fries. I'm willing to take the gamble because I think he's a good fit for this Dolphins offense. I'm citing another guard in free agency. I think the way to go for the offensive line this offseason for Miami is offensive line in free agency and then go to the draft for defense. I'm going with James Daniels, another player that's a little bit of a gamble, but I'm a gambling man. He only played 4 games this past season before suffering a season-ending injury, but just like Fries, he was really, really good in the limited time that he played. PFF numbers through the roof for the Steelers. And that offensive line in Pittsburgh took a little bit of a dip once Daniels went down for injury. I mentioned how Fries, according to PFF, was the second-ranked run-blocking zone guy this past season. Well, you want to know who's number one? Yeah, it's this guy right here, James Daniels. So you add Daniels, you add Fries, you project them to be your starting left guard, right guard conversation or combination. You have Patrick Paul at left tackle, Daniels/Fries at left guard, Brewer at center, Daniels/Fries at right guard, Austin Jackson at right tackle. You draft an offensive lineman still in the draft as a depth piece and a future piece because I'm only signing James Daniels to a one-year contract. I'm a little bit less bullish on Daniels long-term. He's been in the league longer. Fries is still 25, 26, 27 years old. Daniels is closer to 28, 29. So I would sign Fries to a multi-year deal. Daniels only a one-year deal. Yeah, it's not a complete commitment to the offensive line like I'd like, but you could still draft one in rounds 2 or round 3 to be that replacement of James Daniels after one season to fill in for that role. You also, guys, you have to go bargain shopping here because the Dolphins don't have a lot of cap space, so it's not like you're going to be signing crazy multi-year contracts, I think, in free agency. But I like both those guys, and my perfect free agency plan, I would sign both. But if you could only pick one, I'm making it difficult for you because I picked both. But if you only could pick one, who would it be? Which one would it be? Will Fries, type WF. If it was James Daniels, type your JDs. I didn't forget about backup quarterback, folks. The last player that I am signing in free agency is Carson Wentz. I know, it's a little bit of a stunner, but a one-year, $4 million contract to me feels like a good value for Carson Wentz. It's not a commitment to a long-term backup, but he would be the best backup quarterback you've had in the Tua Tagovailoa tenure. Jacoby Brissett, he was terrible for Miami. Tyler Huntley, Skylar Thompson, Teddy Bridgewater, I think Carson Wentz is on par or better than all of them. Signed him a one-year, $4 million deal. Draft a quarterback in day 3 to be your developmental backup quarterback and third guy on the practice squad. I think that's the best way to go about it. Cheap contract. That's what a backup quarterback costs, guys. So 1 year, $4 million for Carson Wentz to be that guy. I'm in if Carson Wentz is in. So overall, my haul and my perfect free agency plan, we don't have a lot of cap space, so can't go out and sign like 9, 10 guys, but re-signing Kader, Kohou, Calais, Campbell, and Tyrel Dodson, adding Julian Blackmon, James Daniels, and Will Fries to the roster, and then also getting Carson Wentz as a backup quarterback as well. Those are my 7 additions in my perfect free agency plan. It's hard to know exactly what Miami will do, considering I don't know how much cap space they will actually have, but that is my perfect plan as well. But it sucks to admit here, as we close out today's show, that Chris Grier has to go bargain shopping. He has to be very selective. So you're going to see free agents fly off the board probably relatively early on Monday morning, Monday afternoon on March 10th, and it's going to be like, well, Mekhi Becton, 3-year, $40 million deal with blank team. It's gonna be, well, that stinks. I mean, the Dolphins could have been interested. But with the cap space situation that Miami has put themselves in, they have to find guys that they truly believe are a home run fit in their system and at a price point that won't cripple them going forward in free agency as well as the NFL draft. So he's going to have to go bargain shopping, cheap players that can be productive right away, and you have to be selective. So I would just remain patient. Yeah, you can blame Chris Grier for it being in this position right now, but you need to be patient when free agency opens on March 10th. You really, really do. And it'd be interesting to see what Grier ultimately comes away with, and we'll have you all covered on what happens. This was my perfect free agency plan, but when things actually do occur in the National Football League surrounding the Miami Dolphins, we will have you covered. So hit that sub button and join the channel today.